Good morning to you and welcome to our Monday morning edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition, located on Cowan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. Here it is June now.
Yeah,
already.
We were just saying this morning how fast this year was going by.
It is going by
Christmas is
fast.
coming.
I mean, it seems like it was just here.
Yeah, those Christmas and July sales will be coming up sometime.
Yeah,
they really
exactly.
will.
One good thing is shrimp season opens this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a lot of folks will see a lot of the shrimp boats out there. I know last year got started a couple of weeks late. So everybody's getting ready and excited for that. So we want to wish everybody a good shrimp season.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
And fortunately, hopefully there won't be any bad storms or anything.
Right.
Today our topic is going to be something a little bit different. Something that we actually had a lady from Waveland send in and suggested to us to do, and that's PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And when you think about that, most people think, okay, PTSD, that's something that men and women of our military or even law enforcement that they deal with.
Right.
But
and they do deal with it. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, but this is also things that are brought on by major stress, sexual assault, terrorism, other threats in a person's life. And the reason that she brought it up was because Katrina.
Yep.
There's still so many people that are suffering from PTSD after Katrina, and sometimes they may not even realize that's what they're dealing with.
Right.
Well, they don't a lot of times because you look at it and say, well, gosh, that's 10 years ago. And a lot of the symptoms of PTSD don't come on immediately. It may be months, it may be years after an event that all of a sudden things hit you. And for some reason you start, well, I don't deal with that very well. And especially, like now we're in hurricane season.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, once that starts, everybody starts going back in their mind about, well, what happened, during Katrina, and depending on what happened, how they were, if they were here through Katrina, and some of it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And think about all the other stuff going on. Like right now we've got flooding in Texas, or had flooding in Texas a week or so ago.
Yeah.
And we had, just a year or two ago, we had up in the Northeast, which they've never had storm stuff like that.
Oh, I know.
And they had Sandy hit up there and just devastate the area. And we've got so many of these events, and the Boston bomb, the Boston Marathon thing.
Yeah.
Those poor people.
Exactly.
That if
Traumatic events that happen in a person's life is what does it. And now, I mean, as you were saying, every little storm that seems to pop up now, will pop up in the Gulf. People are going to go,
oh yes.
And people still do that even after 10 years.
I know.
Even him.
I do. I'm cool until storm season hits, and then when Tommy starts talking about storm season, hurricane season, I'm like, okay. Then I go through it, and it's really kind of funny. I go into my garages and so on, and I start checking. Okay, do I have this, and this? I'm going to be ready.
And actually being prepared for things that are like that. Now, with a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, you can't be prepared for something.
Right.
But like for hurricanes and natural disasters, make sure you're prepared. It does help a little bit. It helps a little bit to know that you are ready if something does happen.
That takes a big load off.
It does, and to be honest, I'm the same way. I mean, I make sure storm season gets here. I have batteries in my flashlights. I know where every flashlight is in the house, so if I'm somewhere that I need to grab one, I know where it's at. And then you start, when you get closer, if the storm pops up, you think there's a threat. That's when you start, saying, okay, I better get some water, some extra cases of water. Of course, you can get some regular water and keep ahead of time.
Yeah, and you probably should.
Just don't. Keep it somewhere that it's not going to get hot out in your garage or someplace like that.
No, it needs to be inside where it's cool.
And I think one of the problems, like I said, with Katrina, for instance, because of course that around here is one of the biggest things. I think I saw a paper that was written on Katrina that said PTSD was 10 times more prevalent in this area after Katrina than in the rest of the country. And so we have a lot around here because of Katrina. And with Katrina, we thought we were prepared. That was, I think, one of the problems with Katrina.
Yeah.
People thought they were prepared. And we were like, after a day or two, and still it was like a desert island around here.
It really was.
Then it was kind of scary. It really was.
Nobody expected things to happen as bad as they did.
Yeah, because we stayed.
No.
We were one.
Oh, I was.
We were
stayed here.
And we bailed water for 8 hours. I mean, we were lucky we were not in the water. We talked to many people out there that were in the water for hours, holding on to trees, holding on to, so that really would be traumatic.
Right. Well, a lot of people remember the story of of Rebecca Powers that worked that was here at the station when she was, you know, her and her husband barely survived.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because they lived on 2nd Street. They had to get out through an you know, upstairs window or something like that. You know, floating in a bathtub or a hot tub or something.
Yeah.
And it was very traumatic, you know, for them. So there's so many different ways that people are trying to deal with these things now.
Right.
And as you said, it may not come up until years down the line. Something else will happen that will spark it.
It may even be when the next hurricane's coming.
That's true.
You know, well, that's true. You know, oh God, when if Tommy starts putting those little circles out there and showing us where he's coming, those little maps, you know.
Tommy and Carrie.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, any of the crew and the weather. You know, when they start doing that, you know, automatically you start kind of reliving those things. And it's the same thing with anything. You know, for instance, you know, I've talked to people that had the PTSD from automobile accidents. You know, you think, well, gee, that's not a real big. Well, yeah, they can have a PTSD event just from that, and certain things. You know, for instance, if it was a certain traffic situation or whatever that got them.
I'm raising my hand because I went through that myself in 1998. South Carolina. I was involved in a bad accident, which I flipped my Blazer down the interstate because the weather was bad.
Right.
Started hydroplaning. I wasn't speeding or anything, but just the situation, everything. So now, if I'm, you know, riding in bad weather, I'm very more cautious. But I get really anxious if the weather is raining or whatever, and I'm not driving. Because I feel like I'm not in control.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like I start reliving that moment. So
and that's part of it, you know. And a lot of times, you know, one of the bad things is, you know, a lot of folks start having nightmares about it and reliving it.
And it can be, you know, PTSD can be very mild, which probably yours being cautious when it rains is probably more mild because it doesn't affect you every day. And then there's people that it's severe, where they're debilitated. They can't even function in life anymore because of the stress and the trauma that they've had.
And we see that.
Yeah, we do.
And
we actually see
well,
all
when those
kinds of
conditions come back on, I mean, it's almost like you said, I get very, very, you know, anxiety, you know, problems, anything. So we're talking about PTSD this morning, post-traumatic stress disorder. We're going to talk about the different symptoms, and so you might want to think about that. And we'll be back here in just a moment on Live Healthy, Be Healthy with Doctor's Nutrition. And welcome back to our Monday morning edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live Healthy, Be Healthy with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox from Doctor's Nutrition on Cowan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road, across from the Garden Center, the old Kmart over there. So we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder this morning when, you know, a lot of people, again, we mentioned, they think it has to do with our men or women coming back from, you know, doing a tour of duty overseas or something like that. And there's so many other things that it can deal with. Anything that has caused a major stress in your life. Generally, the symptoms are grouped into 4 types. Intrusive memories, avoidance, you just can't be around people.
Right.
Negative changes in thinking and mood, or changes in your emotional reactions, a little bit more moody than
a little more overreaction.
Right,
yes.
overreaction.
Exactly. So if you have disturbing thoughts and feelings about a traumatic event for more than a month, if they are severe, or if you feel you're having trouble getting your life back into control, then it's probably good to you know, meet a healthcare professional on that.
Yeah, it's really good to have support around you, you know, friends, neighbors, whatever, you know, that you can talk to about it, you know, and it's really good if you can find somebody that went through that same kind of event as you. You know, for instance, like folks that we have here that went through Katrina. Okay, if you can find somebody here that went through Katrina and share those experiences, that kind of helps get us through it, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, there's the symptoms can be bad. They can either be debilitating or they can just be mild, you know, kind of aggravating kind of things, you know, that people don't think too much about. But it can be very, like Janine said, very debilitating. We see a lot of that.
Do you see it more, I guess probably more, you know, the older that we are, you know, it has a tendency, usually.
Always.
Yeah, I mean,
not
yeah,
always.
teenagers and everything, you get it too, but normally, I guess under the age of 10 or something, it usually goes away quicker. I mean, is it possible?
We probably don't deal with as many kids just because, you know, you don't see it as much.
Right.
But, you know, you can say that a lot of the military men coming back are in their early 20s.
That's true.
You know, they're young and they still have a problem with it. So it doesn't, I don't know that age.
I think real young, it tends to imprint on them.
Right,
really
where it affects them later in life.
And it'll affect them much longer, much later. And so, children are especially vulnerable in that respect.
Right.
And, we can't just dust it off and say, oh, don't worry about it. You have to realize that it's there.
Right.
And you have to be able to deal with it. They need a lot of support. Like I say, support, just having friends and so on that's around it, talking about it.
And a lot of the problem is it's the way the body responds to stress after that.
That's
and once you've had that stress response that was so extreme, a lot of times it doesn't just stop. And that is why you keep having the symptoms. And there was a really good example of how I had a lady that had come in. She thought something happened to one of her. This is actually an event that didn't even happen, okay? But she thought it did. She thought her kid had drowned and lost it. I mean, like she said, she was hysterical. They found the kid. He wasn't even near where they thought he was, so he didn't drown. She still, months later, had that stress response because her body had already had that response. And even though it didn't happen, she was like, it didn't happen, and I can't make myself stop. And when we did lab work, we found that her cortisol, which is the stress hormone, was sky high.
Wow.
And the good thing is we were able to lower her stress hormone with supplements and actually stop the response. Then she was okay. So it's weird how the body, once it has that reaction, it's hard to make you stop it, even if you know it really didn't even happen.
Like I said, even real or imaginary.
Real or imaginary. It's kind of that's what's kind of bad about post-traumatic stress disorder is a lot of times you can't control it. You try. I mean, people think, oh, I should be able to control this. Well, sometimes it's hard.
It is.
It really is.
Well,
but that was one of those things, when that happened, I said, that shows you right there that she had no control over it, because she even kept saying to herself, this didn't even happen. This did not even happen.
That's like,
why am I like this?
Going back to, my automobile accident, if I'm in a car now, we're driving with somebody in bad weather and rain, and they're driving, I get real, nervous. I'm holding on to the, the strap up there, and just I feel like I have to drive if in a situation like that, because I need to be in control.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So. And people feel like that, but one of the things that we do, I mentioned the cortisol. It's one of the things after Katrina. Everybody we checked, their cortisol was high. I mean, it was like, even if they were doing okay with it, even if they weren't one of the ones trapped in the water, they weren't one of the ones that had a severe traumatic event, they still had high cortisol, because it was pretty devastating to the whole area.
Oh, yes.
I mean, even if you weren't one of the ones that was in the worst situation. So we saw high cortisol for a while, and you saw the weight gain. We actually had everybody almost across the board gain 20, 30 pounds, including us. We were gaining, and all of a sudden we were like, this has got to stop. And so about 3 months.
I was going to say, a little bit of you?
Yes, I did. I gained about 15, 20 pounds myself. And then it was like, okay, this has got to stop. And so we stopped the cycle. And that's what you have to try to do, is try to stop that cycle. But we recognized that it was coming on and did something for it. Yeah. But we see people to this day that when they come in with all their health problems and they tell us what's going on, okay, when did it start? You always ask a history. After Katrina. After Katrina. And we hear that constantly.
And another group that probably, deal with it all the time are first responders.
Oh,
yes.
Definitely. Whether it's police,
law enforcement
or fire,
officers, fire, ambulance.
Especially recently, there's been some threats to the law enforcement agencies with all the things that are going on.
Yes.
And they're more afraid now than ever because of what's going on in the whole country.
And that's not good.
That affects the stress response. It does.
Yes.
The bad thing is it affects their families too, because if one person is kind of bonkers over something like that, then the people around them, close family, they feed off
especially
of it
law enforcement, especially law enforcement, because
fear factor, so to speak.
Being in kind of part time in that field myself now, your family. They fear, is this going to be the last time that I see them when they walk out that door?
Right.
So, they don't know. And especially, as you said, with all the stuff that's going on in the country today, so
in the world,
they themselves, I mean, it's almost like a domino effect that, they're going to suffer from those kind of, PTSDs.
Right. So it affects the folks around them.
Or anxiety attack, which is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Panic attacks is just sudden anxiety that comes on, and some people say there's no reason for it. There's probably an underlying reason somewhere, but a panic attack would be part of the PTSD. A lot of people that have that have panic attacks as well.
And we see that, like we were talking about now today, with Katrina being 10 years ago, and we have people come in and they say it just started recently, but they were here during Katrina. So it's been years, and all of a sudden they start, why am I having this? And it's kind of amazing, it really is.
Well, and a lot of it can be attention that's given to the fact that it's a 10-year anniversary. All of a sudden, they've tried to shut it out, but all of a sudden there's all this attention, so it's like bringing it back. We're going to come back in just a moment with our final segment and talk about some things that you can possibly. And welcome back to our Monday morning edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition in Gulfport on Cowan Road, south of Pass Road. And this program will be rebroadcast this coming Friday at 9 o'clock here on WLOX CBS. We're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. So what are some of the things that, that people can do?
Well, one of the things, first, we always stress checking things first, like check that cortisol response. Is it extremely high? And it's a simple blood test that you can do to find out if your morning cortisol is just off the chart. And we see some of them that are literally off the charts.
And another thing that goes along with the high cortisol a lot of times is low DHEA. DHEA is a hormone that's produced in the adrenals, and when it's real low, you don't handle stress as well. So it actually, and we find as people's cortisol goes up, many times the DHEA goes down.
Right. And it's due to that prolonged stress.
Prolonged stress.
Yeah. In other words, the adrenals get fatigued and they get quit functioning as well. So, that's one of the first things we like to do is just check it, see what we need to do exactly.
Right.
And because, we do find them that their cortisol is low because they're exhausted and you have to do something different.
They've actually had high for years and then all of a sudden it gets fatigued. So there's a lot of things you can do. It's not always high. And sometimes it's low after years of the event.
Right.
So, and even doing some of the nutrients, that we check, the vitamin D, the B12, getting more overall health optimal. Right. To actually be able to handle stress better.
I think that's huge. I mean, just being able to handle stress. And things like, we've used a lot of different natural compounds like the 5-HTP, which gives you a little bit more serotonin, helps us with, with that. Things like kava, which is a good calmant, L-theanine. I think two of our things that we're having specials this week is going to be the cortisol soothe, which actually helps lower that cortisol response. And then the L-theanine, which is great for anxiety.
Yeah, it's been shown to actually help panic attacks, but it does not make you tired. It actually changes the brain waves, and therefore it actually helps stop panic attacks, and it does not make you sleepy. A lot of things that calm actually make you sleepy. Theanine doesn't. It's been shown to actually make you sharp and focused.
Very aware.
So it's actually very good because you can take it during the day and at work, and it won't make you feel weird at all.
That's good.
Now, and then like I said, the 5-HTP that we've used for low serotonin is used for depression. And in medicine,
and stress.
And stress.
And stress.
And handling stress better. You cannot take it with antidepressants. So we do tell people if they're already on an antidepressant, you cannot add 5-HTP. You can add theanine. And you can do the cortisol soothe if you show that you have high cortisol.
Right.
So there's some things we can add to medications, and there's some things we can't. So everybody's a little individual there.
Yeah, the best thing that you can do is don't just go running out to one of your big box stores and say, well, they said to get this, and or I'm just going to get this and this and this and this, without finding out, if you're taking something else, what kind of reaction is it going to have with the medication that you're on?
Is there any possible reactions? Right.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm since we started this show almost a year ago, I've on some different supplements. But the thing is about it is I'm under doctor's guidance here, so I know what I can take with my blood pressure medicine, what I can take with my cholesterol medication, and things like that. So, and I don't take any anti-anxiety. Medications or anything like that, but
like I said, but there's a lot of things you can do, and even exercise. We were going to mention, and meditation and yoga, relaxation. Trying to relax better, trying to figure out ways that you can be relaxed, because being uptight makes it worse.
Yeah, exercise is huge, because it really kind of gets and we need good exercise anyhow. That's a biggie, exercise. And one of the things that we're going to talk about, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, this is Monday, so tomorrow night on Tuesday night on our radio show, it's on Voice America. You can go to our website, thedoctorsnutrition.com, and there's a thing there where you can go right to it. We're going to have a fellow named David Dorian Ross. He's kind of one of the leading authorities on Tai Chi.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of a meditation and exercise all in one.
So they call it soft martial art.
A soft martial art, right.
Yes.
But it's extraordinarily beneficial for those who are having stress and anxiety and so on in their life. It really
and you can listen to it live at 7 on Tuesday, or you can download it anytime after.
Yeah.
All the shows are actually archived, so you can actually look at them and actually download it later.
And he'll be there talking about, because we've got quite a bit of things there for him to talk about on the Tai Chi thing, because I think that's it's real important. It kind of ties in with this thing too.
Well, years ago, I was mentioning years ago when I studied Taekwondo back in the 80s, there was a time there, I mean, even after after 6 months of being in it, my wife said, you know, you're just a lot calmer, you know, a lot more settled, you know, and everything. So yeah, it does. I mean, the discipline, the training, the exercise, and all of it kind of rolls into one.
Rolls into one, right? Yeah.
And like I said, there's a lot of yoga studios around here. So
really
there's a lot of things you can do to actually help yourself. And you know, and don't think that there's not any help. There's always something that you can do, and they have found cognitive therapy or talk therapy is probably one of the most beneficial for PTSD. And so if you have a
that's
friend,
why you find they have a lot of talk groups.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like I say, support groups.
Go to a support group. Talk to your, maybe the doctors doesn't have as much time, a psychologist. You know, if you really need it, go to a psychologist. There's different things that you can do, or talk to a friend. Some people say, well, I don't want to go to it. You know, talk to a friend. Find somebody to talk to.
Yeah, and if you think you don't have enough time to really exercise, go take a walk on the beach.
Yeah,
no, that's
something
that's
like
good
that.
and
Calming in the morning,
calming
listen to the waves
anyhow,
coming. Yeah, I mean that's calming anyway. So or go take a drive out through the country somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really roll the windows down and enjoy that. So again. If you have any other questions, you can call them. 897-0070 is the number at the office. Of course, the doctors are always in there Monday through Thursday, but they're open Monday through Saturday. Next week, we're going to be talking about the dangers of genetically modified foods.
Yes.
Interesting.
It's coming out more and more in the media. I mean, you keep hearing more and more of GMOs and what they do. And
a lot of people aren't really sure what it is or what it does.
What it does to you.
Know. So we'll be talking a lot about this. It's going to be a really interesting show.
Okay.
I promise you that.
That's good. Well, again, that's going to be next week, our live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi, Live Healthy, Be Healthy. And then this show, again, will be rebroadcast this coming Friday. But if you're having any problems with PTSD, we again we urge you to get some help.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's a support group, doing a little exercise. I mean, you can do what I did and just Google it.
Yeah.
And you'll find a lot of great tips on there.
Sure
things
will.
that you can
come get some lab work done. See if there's anything that can be helped there.
Being proactive about it. Take that first step. Whatever you're going to do, take that step. And I think you'll see a big change.
And especially now that here it is, hurricane season again. The first little storm that pops up, people are going to start panicking, and it may not even come this way.
Hopefully, we don't have one.
Yes,
let's hope. Keep our fingers crossed.
Knock on Formica. We'll
definitely.
We'll definitely hope that this hurricane season does well. Of course, just keep it right here on WLOX, and we've got the greatest weather team on the Gulf Coast and the area to keep you updated on that.
Right.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week here on Healthy Living.